Welcome back to the Fulton County Gospel News Podcast. My name is Barry Odell, and I am your host. Fulton County Gospel News is a bi-monthly publication of the Church of Christ in Mammoth Spring, Arkansas. And if you'd like to learn more about our paper, visit our website, mammothspringchurchofchrist.com, and there you can find all the information you'll need. You can find all of our contact information. And if you'd like to receive our paper, it is always free of charge. Let us know by email. You can receive the paper as a PDF, or you can receive a hard copy through the United States Postal Service. Just let us know what we can do for you. Also, if you've not yet subscribed to our Podbean channel, go to podbean.com on your computer or on your smartphone. You can get the Podbean app for free. Follow Fulton County Gospel News, and then you can interact with each individual episode. You can ask questions, make comments, and even make suggestions for topics of discussion. Today, I want to read an article to you from the October 1973 edition of Fulton County Gospel News. This article was written by Maxie Boren, and it's entitled, "What About John, Lord?" And this article, when I read it, it struck me. It made me think about some things that I've struggled with over the years as a preacher. And so I'm going to read the article to you. There's actually a biblical text that I'm going to read to go along with it, but that'll be from John chapter 21. So here we go. Before his ascension, Jesus told Peter to feed my sheep and follow me. John 21, 15 through 19. Peter looked at John and asked, "What shall this man do?" The Lord replied, "In essence, Peter, it doesn't matter what my plans are for John. You just concern yourself with Peter. You follow me." So let me pause from reading the article, and I'll read that text to you. This is John 21, beginning in verse 20. Then Peter, turning around, saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following, who also had leaned on his breast at the supper, and said, "Lord, who is the one who betrays you?" Peter, seeing him, said to Jesus, "But Lord, what about this man?" Jesus said to him, "If I will that he remains till I come, what is that to you? You follow me." Then this saying went out among the brethren, that this disciple would not die. Yet Jesus did not say to him that he would not die, but, "If I will that he remain till I come, what is that to you?" So again, that's John 21, verses 20 through 23. And so that kind of sets the context for this particular article. Peter's concern about John after Jesus had instructed Peter what he was to do. So back to the article. Too often we are overly concerned with what others are doing or not doing. It is so easy to be distracted from one's own responsibility by being preoccupied with, quote, John. Seeing a John failing to be actively involved in the Lord's work, there is a danger for me to think subconsciously, why should I work so hard? Look at old John, he's not doing anything. I can remember well in my early years of preaching the reaction I felt over what John did or didn't do. In one place, an elder, the Diotrephes type, in the church was one of the richest men in the county. He had land, oil, and cattle in abundance. He saw to it that everyone in the congregation knew what he gave, and while it was more in actual dollars than most of the rest were able to give, proportionately it was a mere pittance. Scant crumbs that fell from his table. At the time, it was a tremendous struggle for us to make ends meet from week to week, and yet we were giving almost as many dollars a Sunday as he. Satan tempted me sorely to cut down our giving in view of what John was doing. I learned right then that I couldn't be what the Lord wanted me to be and be overly concerned with John. I've had to relearn the lesson on many occasions in many different aspects of the Christian life. I pray to God that when Satan tempts me to ask, "What about John, Lord?" that the Lord's reply to Peter will come through loud and clear. "Don't worry about old John. You follow me." So this is a very short article. Like I said, it's from the October 1973 edition of Fulton County Gospel News. But man, I tell you what, it teaches a profound truth. It is a challenge, I would say, for each Christian to practice self-examination, introspection. You know, it's very easy to look around to see what others are doing or saying, or what they're not doing or saying, and be harsh, to be judgmental, and yet be very lax on ourself, to justify our own inaction or action, whatever the case may be. And I'll tell you, just like the article, the author, again, Maxie Boren, talked about what he remembered from some of his early years of preaching, that he struggled with this concept. And I'll tell you, I have too. And if any preacher is honest with himself, I suppose that each of us has had that struggle of working with the local congregation, because as the local preacher, you get so involved with the lives of your membership. You learn things the longer that you're there. You learn people, and sometimes, perhaps through gossip that is not invited, you learn about some history. And sometimes your view of people can be tainted. You can become cynical because there's some quote-unquote good Christian who just, hey, I just want to let you know something about somebody. You know, if people come to you and they're whispering and they just want to let you know something about someone, be careful around that person. If they feel free to come to you and gossip about someone, you can be certain that they'll be feeling free to go to someone else and gossip about you. So, and you know, the Bible talks a lot about those who bear false witness and those who spread lies and cause dissension among brethren. But anyway, I would say again, for preachers, this is a real struggle. It has been for me. One thing that I have done, and whether this is right or wrong, I don't know. But early on, and I think like the author here was talking about, early on, I kind of felt like it was my job to make sure that every Christian was doing what they were supposed to do. You know, and if you think about that for just a minute, that's not possible. I have my own life. I have my own family. I don't live with every member of the congregation. I don't see what they do all day and what they do at night and on the weekends and such like this. I see them at the public worship assembly, visit their homes and things like this. There is no possible way for me to make an accurate judgment or to make an accurate criticism by just knowing a very small part of a person's life story. Now, that doesn't excuse sin. I'm not even addressing that. I'm just addressing this concept of Peter's mindset. Well, Lord, what about John? And Jesus' rebuke to him, to Peter here in John chapter 21, seems to be somewhat of a mild rebuke. Listen, if I want him to remain until I come, then how is that any of your business? You just follow me. You do what you're supposed to do. So many of us, and again, this includes me, so many of us would be so much better off if we could always keep this passage in mind. We need to be concerned about our brethren. You know, there are passages, I think of like Galatians 6, 1 and 2. Brethren, if any of you are overtaken in a fault, you which are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness. We have a responsibility. But listen to the rest of that text. Considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. So it's not just outward. And a lot of times too many people, and again, preachers especially, because they know so much, in the sense of visiting with people, getting to know a congregation, being there for such a long period of time. Like for me, for example, I've been here at Mammoth Spring for going on 8 years now. It can become a challenge to not develop the Peter mindset that's revealed here. Well, what about all these other people? Now, we can encourage, and we need to do that. We can edify, we can admonish, we can reprove and rebuke. Every Christian can do all of that. But if we are not first and foremost concerned with ourselves, then we're missing the point. And I tell you another thing that I don't know if it necessarily goes hand in hand with this, but I think there's some connection. It is often the case that those who are concerned, let's say, and willing to gossip and willing to be harsh and judgmental towards those whom they feel could be doing more or who could be doing better or giving more, whatever the case may be, and this is my experience in 25 years of preaching, it is often the case that that type of person is doing nothing. And what I mean by doing nothing is they're at the church services. They may be there every time the door is open, but they're critics. They're there every time, and so, you know, to most people, well, hey, that's a faithful Christian. They're there every time the door is open. Listen, attending every service of the church does not make you a faithful Christian. Now, that is part of what a faithful Christian does, certainly, but that does not mean that one is a faithful Christian. Anyway, oftentimes it is the case that the hypercritical, the harshly judgmental, are those who are, let's say, deflecting. They themselves are not doing a thing to help the local church. And they'll let it be known I had one person tell me on one occasion, listen, I'm not going to lead a prayer, I'm not going to do anything in the service because if I do one thing, I'll end up doing it all. That was his rationalization for doing nothing. We all need a dose of what Jesus said to Peter sometime. If I want this to happen, that's none of your business. You follow me. One thing that I think of in connection with this is all of the passages in the New Testament that talk about the day of judgment. You know, when we stand before God in judgment, I'm not going to stand before God in judgment as a part of a congregation. I'm not going to stand there with my 4 family members and give an account for everything they've done. I am going to give an account for me. Each one of us will give an account of what we have done in our body. That's the principle of judgment. That's the principle of sin and violation of the law. Each individual is accountable and will be judged based on what they have done. Not what others have done, not what others have not done. But I think oftentimes what I would call here the Peter syndrome, worried about what someone else is going to do, is often an attempt at deflection. Take the focus off of me and what I may be doing or may not be doing. Hey, look at this other person over here. What about them? Couldn't they do more? Should they be doing that at all? I could do it better than they can do it. And that's often, I've run into that a lot of times over the years. Those who are doing nothing can always do something better than those who are doing something. Again, very, very hypercritical, very judgmental, and sinful. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So while we do need to be concerned about our brothers and sisters in Christ, that's not the point here. The point is, you follow me. Each individual is responsible for his own sin or for his own righteousness. I'm not in control of that. No preacher's in control of that. No eldership is in control of that. Each individual is responsible for his or her own action or inaction, and each of us will stand individually before God in judgment and give an account of ourselves. So we need to be careful that we're not like Peter and that we're not so concerned about others that we lose sight of our own purpose and what God would have us to be doing. All right, so thanks again for listening today. Again, if you'd like the paper as a PDF in your email, let us know. If you'd like it as a hard copy in the United States Postal Service, let us know. Just go to our website and use our contact information. Subscribe to our Podbean channel. Share this content on social media. Let's get God's Word out to as many people as we can. Thank you again for listening today, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Fulton County Gospel News Podcast.